If you're dealing with a woman who constantly tests you, dismisses what you say, or treats you like your presence is optional, understand this. Disrespect doesn't happen by accident. It happens because a man allows it. Today, I'm breaking down 7 powerful ways to regain control, rebuild respect, and stop tolerating the behavior that's draining your confidence. If you want to learn how to shift the dynamic instantly, keep watching. When dealing with a woman who doesn't respect you, the foundation of regaining that respect starts with boundaries, real ones, not the kind you repeat during arguments or post on social media. Boundaries are not speeches, demands, or threats. They are standards for how you allow people to treat you and the consequences you enforce when those standards are violated. Many men lose respect in a relationship because they confuse boundaries with begging. They say, "Don't talk to me like that," but then they stay, argue, explain, and tolerate the same behavior again. When your actions don't match your words, your boundaries lose all meaning. Setting a boundary begins with you, not her. A woman who disrespects you is simply responding to the signals you've been giving, consciously or unconsciously. If you've been overly available, emotionally reactive, or too eager to please, you've taught her that your feelings are flexible and your standards are negotiable. That's why many men feel stuck. They try harder to earn respect instead of demanding it through consistent behavior. Boundaries are about consistency, not confrontation. When she raises her voice, mocks you, interrupts you, or uses disrespect as the emotional weapon, your instinct might be to defend yourself or fight back. But arguing only shows that she can emotionally trigger you. The stronger move is calm withdrawal from the interaction. This doesn't mean silent treatment or manipulation. It means stepping away from the disrespect. You can calmly say, "I'm not continuing this conversation while you're speaking to me like that," and then physically remove yourself. The power is not in the line you deliver. The power is in your willingness to follow through. When you detach your attention, the disrespect loses its audience. Most women respect boundaries that are paired with action. They don't take seriously the boundary that comes with panic, emotional meltdown, or an attempt to punish her. They take seriously the one that comes with a firm tone, no drama, and no hesitation. The more neutral your energy is, the more powerful the boundary becomes. If she realizes you are not shaken, not threatened, and not emotionally tangled in her reaction, she starts to adjust her behavior naturally. Respect flows toward emotional stability. Boundaries also require clarity. Many men send mixed signals, saying they want respect but tolerating sarcasm, public humiliation, dismissive comments, or inconsistent behavior. This confusion creates space for disrespect to grow. You must be very clear, not with her, but with yourself. What is acceptable? What is not? What will you do the next time she crosses the line? Women don't respect unclear men. They don't respect men who hesitate. They respect men who make decisions and stand behind them. Another aspect of boundaries is frequency. A one-time boundary-setting moment is not enough if her pattern has been growing for years. Every time you fail to enforce a boundary, the disrespect compounds. A woman learns, he says he doesn't tolerate this, but he still stays, still gives attention, still acts normal. The message becomes, your boundaries are just noise. To reverse this, you must consistently enforce consequences, not angrily, not emotionally, but firmly. Over time, she begins to understand that your words are not suggestions, they are standards. Finally, boundaries are not about controlling her behavior. They are about controlling your participation. You don't demand she change. You create an environment where disrespect has no place to land. If she wants connection with you, she adjusts. If she doesn't, she distances herself. Either way, you protect your self-respect and your emotional peace through the standards you uphold. Boundaries are not about forcing respect. They are about creating conditions where respect becomes the only acceptable interaction. One of the biggest mistakes men make when dealing with a disrespectful woman is giving more attention, more emotion, and more effort when she behaves poorly. Most men don't realize that their reactions are actually rewards. Arguing, explaining yourself, defending your intentions, chasing her when she pulls away, these all reinforce her behavior. Attention is a form of currency in relationships. It's powerful, it's valuable, and it shapes dynamics more than words. When you reward disrespect with heightened interest, you unintentionally teach her that negative behavior gets a response from you, and that response gives her emotional control over you. Women instinctively test boundaries in relationships. These tests are not always malicious. Often they're subconscious ways of evaluating your emotional strength and stability. When she disrespects you, maybe through sarcasm, attitude, dismissive remarks, or unnecessary conflict, she's observing how easily she can impact your emotions. If you explode, argue, or beg, you're revealing your emotional dependency. When you reward disrespect with intensity, you communicate that she can influence your state of mind. That instantly reduces her respect for you, because a man who is easily destabilized is a man she cannot rely on. Silence, distance, and emotional composure are far more powerful than shouting or over-explaining. A woman respects a man who can remain calm in the face of provocation, not because he's passive, but because he's controlled. When she says something disrespectful and you respond with a lecture, she hears noise. When you walk away calmly, she feels consequences. She senses the shift in energy, and that shift speaks louder than any argument ever could. Distance forces reflection. Attention fuels chaos. You must understand that not reacting is not weakness, it's strategic self-control. Men often misunderstand what pulling back means. It does not mean ignoring her completely, being rude, or giving attitude in return. It means withdrawing the emotional reward. If she wants your warmth, she must contribute positively to the connection. The moment she crosses into disrespect, you simply stop engaging. If she tries to provoke you into reacting, stay unwavering. She will eventually notice the pattern. Disrespect equals less access to your energy. Respect equals more connection. You're not punishing her, you're shaping the dynamic by aligning your attention with positive behavior. Another reason you must stop rewarding disrespect is because emotional overinvestment creates imbalance. When she disrespects you and you argue back, chase after her, or try to prove your point, she becomes the dominant emotional force. You're reacting to her, not leading. Over time, she becomes the one controlling the tempo of the relationship. This removes the masculine polarity and creates instability. By pulling back calmly, you restore balance. She begins to see that her actions have direct consequences, not through anger, but through your absence. Rewarding disrespect also affects her perception of your self-worth. If you continue giving attention when she speaks poorly, mocks you, belittles your ambitions, or acts indifferent to your efforts, she subconsciously thinks, if he accepts this, he must not think he deserves better. Women measure a man's self-respect by what he tolerates. When you give affection, closeness, and attention despite her disrespect, you lower your perceived value. The relationship becomes one-sided, with you investing while she withdraws. Respect cannot grow in that environment. Pulling back is not manipulation, it's emotional discipline. It's choosing not to give energy to chaos. It's deciding that your attention is earned, not freely available under any behavior. A man who controls his attention controls the relationship dynamic. The more selective you are with it, the more valuable it becomes in her eyes. She will either rise to the standard or reveal that she never valued you to begin with. Either way, you gain clarity and protect your emotional peace through your response to disrespect. A woman's respect for a man is closely tied to how he carries himself emotionally, especially during conflict or uncomfortable situations. Communication isn't just about the words you speak, it's about the energy behind them. Most men lose respect not because they lack logic or good intentions, but because they communicate from a place of emotional instability, raised voices, frustration, over-explaining, defensiveness, or desperation. These reactions signal weakness, not authority. Calm communication, on the other hand, communicates strength, stability, and self-control. A woman may challenge your words, but she cannot ignore your energy when it's grounded and composed. When a woman disrespects you, she's often testing your emotional backbone. Many women subconsciously test to see whether a man can lead under pressure or whether he collapses into emotion. If she can provoke you, she assumes she can control the dynamic. When you stay calm, regardless of what she says, she realizes you are in charge of your emotions, and that instantly shifts the power balance. Calm authority shows that you are responding, not reacting. You are observing, not absorbing. It signals psychological strength, which naturally commands respect. Communicating with calm authority doesn't mean being cold or emotionless. It means staying regulated. You don't raise your voice, you don't match her tone, and you don't mirror her emotional intensity. Your tone stays steady, your facial expressions remain relaxed, and your pacing remains slow and controlled. When a woman sees that her words cannot shake your core, she adjusts how she speaks to you. People communicate differently with someone who does not react to provocation. Your lack of emotional chaos forces her to meet you at your level or feel the disconnect her behavior creates. Another common mistake is overcommunication. Men tend to explain themselves excessively when they feel misunderstood or disrespected. They believe that if they explain the situation long enough, she will see their point. But over-explaining rarely builds respect. It often signals insecurity and a need for validation. Calm authority requires minimal words. State your point clearly and confidently, then stop talking. When you communicate efficiently, you demonstrate certainty. Certainty commands more respect than long monologues ever will. Calm authority also means choosing your battles wisely. Not every sarcastic remark or emotional comment requires a response. Sometimes silence is the greatest communication tool you have. When you don't respond to negativity, the energy of the conversation has nowhere to go. The moment you refuse to feed disrespect with emotion, it loses its power. Silence also gives her space to self-correct, reflect, and recalibrate. You're not punishing her, you're simply not rewarding the behavior. And through your calmness, you create a space where respectful communication becomes the only path forward. Another aspect of calm authority is clarity. Speak with intention. When you set a boundary or express a concern, don't say it with hesitation or uncertainty. Women can sense the insecurity behind your words. If your tone is shaky or your eyes avoid direct contact, your message loses impact. Clear communication means you say what you mean without sugarcoating and without fearing the outcome. Confidence in your voice shows confidence in yourself, and confidence is deeply tied to respect. Calm authority also means emotional neutrality during conflict. When she is heated, emotional, or frustrated, the worst thing you can do is join her in the same emotional space. That creates chaos. You must be the stabilizing force, not the additional fire. When you stay calm, you shift the dynamic. Your emotional stability becomes the anchor she gravitates toward. Even if she resists it at first, she eventually aligns with your tone because chaos cannot sustain itself without reaction. Finally, communicating with calm authority is about embodying a sense of inner control. It communicates that you are not afraid of conflict, that you trust yourself, and that you lead with composure. This form of communication naturally earns respect because it reflects maturity, strength, and emotional intelligence. A woman may disagree with you, she may challenge you, but she will respect a man whose calmness cannot be shaken by her words or reactions. A major reason a woman loses respect for a man is because she feels he is too available, too accommodating, or too emotionally dependent. When access to you becomes effortless, predictable, and guaranteed, it loses its value. Human psychology is simple. We value what is scarce, not what is constant. If she knows that no matter how she treats you, coldness, disrespect, emotional games, you'll still be there responding instantly, giving attention, and trying to keep the peace, she subconsciously lowers your value. Respect cannot survive when your presence is taken for granted. Raising your standards for access means recognizing that your time, energy, and emotional investment are valuable, and not everyone deserves all of it. Most men operate with the belief that giving more access will create more connection. They think if they stay available, always answer calls, always adjust their schedule, always place her needs above their own, she will appreciate them more. In reality, the opposite happens. She sees a man who doesn't prioritize himself, who sacrifices his own goals too easily, and who is too eager for validation. This signals weakness, not strength. When she realizes your world revolves around her, she begins testing how far she can push. Once she sees there is no limit, respect begins to erode. Raising your standards doesn't mean becoming distant or unavailable for no reason. It means aligning access with behavior. If she contributes positively, communicates respectfully, and values the relationship, she gets deeper access to you. But if she disrespects you or behaves inconsistently, she doesn't get the same level of emotional closeness. This doesn't require lectures or dramatic announcements. It's simply a shift in how you allocate your time and attention. You stop giving priority to someone who isn't prioritizing you. A man with standards becomes more selective with his energy. He doesn't cancel his plans just because she suddenly wants to see him. He doesn't stop his work or goals every time she seeks attention. He maintains his routine, his discipline, and his sense of direction. This communicates strength. Women deeply respect men with a mission, men who have structure and don't compromise it for emotional comfort. The more grounded you are in your purpose, the more respect you naturally command. Another part of raising your standards involves emotional control. If she's upset and tries to create unnecessary drama, you don't immediately rush to fix everything. You give her space to regulate herself. You don't dive into emotional chaos every time she stirs it. Access to your emotional world is earned, not automatic. When you stop making your emotional stability dependent on her mood, you shift the power dynamic. She begins to see you as a grounded man she cannot manipulate with mood swings or cold behavior. Men often underestimate the power of scarcity. When you are always present, always responding, always available, you remove the mystery and the sense of value. But when you create a life filled with purpose, growth, and personal standards, your presence becomes something meaningful. She recognizes that time with you is not guaranteed. It is something she must contribute to and respect. This shift changes how she speaks to you, how she behaves around you, and how she values the relationship. Raising your standards also requires self-awareness. You must be honest with yourself about what kind of behavior you've been allowing. If you tolerate sarcasm, disrespect, neglect, or emotional games, then you've taught her that your standards are low. To change the dynamic, you must change what you accept. This doesn't mean punishing her. It means elevating yourself. When you grow, evolve, and protect your sense of worth, she will notice the difference in how you carry yourself. People treat you according to the standards you enforce. And when you raise the bar, the entire dynamic begins to transform. One of the strongest signals of self-respect a man can send is his willingness to walk away from a situation that no longer aligns with his mental or emotional well-being. This willingness is not about threats, dramatic exits, or emotional manipulation. It is about having a clear internal line that cannot be crossed without consequences. Many men lose respect in relationships because they stay even when they shouldn't, staying through repeated disrespect, staying through emotional manipulation, staying through constant testing, and staying even when their dignity is on the line. This persistence doesn't come from strength. It comes from fear. Fear of losing her, fear of being alone, fear of starting over. But fear-driven attachment destroys respect. A woman can sense when a man is scared to lose her, and once she senses it, she loses respect for him. Being willing to walk away doesn't mean you want things to end. It means you value yourself enough not to tolerate treatment that diminishes you. When a woman knows you're afraid to leave, she becomes careless with your emotions. She stops considering your feelings, stops prioritizing your needs, and starts pushing boundaries to see how far she can go. But when you show, through consistent behavior, that you will not stay in a place where you are not valued, everything changes. Your willingness to walk away communicates strength without you having to raise your voice or argue. It tells her you respect yourself enough to choose peace over chaos. A man who is willing to walk away makes decisions from a place of power, not fear. He doesn't tolerate disrespect just to preserve the relationship. He doesn't chase validation. He doesn't sacrifice his dignity to keep someone close. This mindset alone forces a woman to reevaluate her behavior. She may push you once or twice, expecting the usual reaction, chasing, apologizing, over-explaining. But when she sees a different version of you, a version that simply steps back and withdraws from disrespect, she feels the shift. She begins to realize that you are not tied to her approval for your sense of worth. The willingness to walk away also increases your attractiveness. Women are naturally drawn to men who have options, men who know they can rebuild their life even if a relationship ends. This doesn't mean you have multiple women waiting for you. It means your life is full, goals, purpose, discipline, growth. When she senses that your life is bigger than the relationship, her respect deepens. On the other hand, when she becomes the center of your emotional universe, she loses interest and respect. Paradoxically, the less you need her, the more she wants to be around you. Men who cannot walk away tend to overcompensate. They try harder, give more, tolerate more, and lower their standards just to keep the relationship intact. Over time, this creates a dynamic where she becomes the dominant emotional force. She leads, you follow, she reacts, you respond, she pulls away, you chase. This imbalance suffocates masculine energy and triggers feminine detachment. But when you're willing to leave rather than accept disrespect, you reset the dynamic. You show that you're not clinging, you're choosing, and you can also choose differently. Walking away also forces clarity. When you step back from a disrespectful dynamic, one of two things happens. She either corrects her behavior, realizing she was losing a man she respected deep down, or she continues the same pattern, revealing that she never valued the relationship in the first place. Either way, you gain truth, and truth is always better than living in illusions created by fear or attachment. The decision to walk away is not about ego, it's about protecting your emotional health. A relationship where you stay out of fear drains your confidence, weakens your masculinity, and chips away at your identity over time. But a man who is not afraid to let go becomes someone others respect instinctively. He knows that losing the wrong woman is not a loss, it is alignment with his values and self-worth. A woman's respect for you often mirrors the respect you have for yourself. Many men try to fix disrespect in a relationship by adjusting the woman's behavior, confronting her attitude, or trying to explain why they deserve better. But genuine respect cannot be demanded. It must be earned through your actions, your standards, and how you treat yourself daily. When your self-respect is strong, it naturally shapes the way others treat you. When it is weak, it invites disrespect, not because the woman is inherently cruel, but because people instinctively test the boundaries of those who don't protect their value. Self-respect begins with self-awareness. You must understand what you bring to the table, what you stand for, and what you will never tolerate. Men who lack self-respect allow behaviors that contradict their values. They accept attitudes that make them uncomfortable. They silence their own needs just to avoid conflict. They prioritize keeping the peace over keeping their dignity. Over time, these choices send a message. My feelings are negotiable, my standards are flexible, and mistreatment is something I can absorb. A woman cannot respect a man who broadcasts this message, even unintentionally. When you focus on building your value, you stop obsessing over how she treats you and start focusing on how you treat yourself. Do you keep your word to yourself? Do you follow through on your goals? Do you maintain discipline in your life? Do you invest in your growth mentally, financially, physically, spiritually? A man who constantly improves himself becomes harder to disrespect because his presence communicates strength without him having to say a word. When you elevate your life, you elevate how people must approach you. Another part of self-respect is emotional control. A man who reacts impulsively, gets triggered easily, or becomes needy when he feels insecure is demonstrating low emotional value. Women lose respect when they feel they must manage your emotions, tiptoe around your sensitivity, or carry the weight of your insecurity. But when you cultivate inner stability, your emotional world is no longer fragile. You don't break down when things don't go your way, you don't chase when someone pulls back, and you don't need constant reassurance. This emotional solidity signals a mature, grounded man, a type of man who commands respect without asking for it. Self-respect also shows through your lifestyle. A man who has a mission, who is committed to his goals, who prioritizes personal development becomes someone others naturally admire. Women respect men who are driven and purposeful, not men who sit around waiting to be needed. When you build a fulfilling life, hobbies, ambitions, routines, friendships, you send a message that your world is full, with or without her. This reduces clinginess and increases attraction. A woman is more likely to respect a man who is fulfilled independently rather than one who relies on her as his only source of meaning. Another crucial aspect is how you handle mistreatment. When you focus on self-respect, you don't stay in relationships that drain you. You don't tolerate repeated disrespect. You don't engage in emotional battles just to win. You protect your peace by removing yourself from situations that threaten it. A man with genuine self-respect doesn't need to announce his standards. He simply lives by them. And when someone violates those standards, he doesn't fight, he distances himself. This kind of consistency communicates strength far more than arguments ever could. Building value also means setting expectations for the kind of people you allow into your inner circle. You don't surround yourself with negativity, chaos, or low-quality behavior. You invest in environments that lift you. You choose relationships that nourish you, not drain you. When you demonstrate that you treat yourself as someone worthy of healthy energy, people adjust the way they approach you. They recognize that disrespect has no place in your life. A man who focuses on self-respect and value becomes someone who walks with quiet confidence. He doesn't seek approval. He doesn't need validation. He moves through life with an internal certainty that cannot be shaken by someone's attitude or temporary mood. This internal certainty transforms the way he is treated. Women respond differently to men who carry themselves with worth. They speak differently, behave differently, and show up differently because they sense they are dealing with someone who knows exactly who he is and what he deserves.